So I cut out a template just to put on the woods to trace round. The template was 36 inches, that is how big the entire Aspis will be. I used a pen, 2 pencils to measure it. The string would be 18 inches because it's half of 36. I must have accidentally done something wrong, so I cut off about 2 inches to make it perfect. Here's roughly a diameter, and here it is tracing round and cutting out the pieces of wood. Here we are gluing it. But then I used a plane to get most of the nastiness off that a sander couldn't. Then I went on with a sander, and as you can see, just going back and forth. Basically, it's very time consuming. So yeah, here's the sander. That's just to get it fully smooth. Then I used wood fill to fill it afterwards, and then for the inside I used an angle grinder with a really tough sanding end, and it really took it off and then sanded the rest.
So this is the inside after we have used the angle grinder and then just sanded it down a bit, and then I've decided to apply some filler around here just because you don't want to sand it too close down to the other ring, because it will like start to undo it. So I'm going to give it an issue around here where it's spring. Filler has fixed that, but so yeah, don't go down too far on this one. These ones are fine, pretty much. You can get it down like that. Then basically I'm going to wood stain this just to get rid of its sort of colour, just like a browner one. And then it's time to get it on the archive grip. Then it's leather coating it, and then it's done.
So I thought I would wood stain it, but then I decided, because it didn't look that good, I actually wanted to coat the inside with leather. You could just wood stain it if you wanted, but here we are making the inside. So this is called the pullbacks. It's basically what holds my arm into the shield. It's a sheet of copper. My dad just got this from work, and I used I think they're called tin snips, I'm not entirely sure, and here we are cutting them out. It's quite a time-consuming process, but it's worth it. And then after that, you want to sand down the edges with a file. So here's set in, and that was my original plan for the bits that then go up. But then I decided to change it later on to snakes, as you will see. So to shape the pullbacks, I got a log that's roughly the shape of my arm, and then, so as you can see there, roughly the shape of my arm. Then basically you bend the pullbacks over a bit, and here we are just using a clamp to basically bend out the bit that is going to be flat to the shield. So there it is. Then we go over to the log, bend it round. It won't bend too well, but once you attach it, it will bend really well. Then I wanted a beveled edge, so we just went along and beveled it up. Quite easy to do. Just don't brush it, and it will be really good. Just go back on it again after you've done it once, and here is your finished product. Now for the archive grip, they have these eyelet hooks. So I'm drilling through, and one thing that I don't like that I have seen in other how-tos is they always leave the screws showing, but what we're going to do is we're going to attach them, and then we're going to go back over with wood filler to hide the screw holes. So they're just little, I think they might be used to hold piping. Anyway, here we are attaching the leather on the inside with the Elmer's spray glue. I do believe that we switched to another one, but Elmer's does work fine as well. You do have to wait a bit for it to harden, I believe. Again, quite a time-consuming process, but if you just go through it, have patience, and it will pay off. And yeah, huge thanks to my dad, as I definitely wouldn't have been able to do this by myself, and he has helped me along this journey for a long time. Overall, probably about 50-60 hours of work went into this, so it's not a small weekend project, that's for sure. You'll be left with a few creases, but that shouldn't be too bad. Also, I'm sure the Greeks sort of had some creases, and it's pretty much impossible not to. It's mainly just smoothing your hand over the glue, pushing it down, trying to push out any air that could form a crease. So there you are. Then we just cut around the edge, and then we're just using a scalpel to re-cut out the holes that the little ringlet eyelet things will go through. Just basically poking in across until you get a fairly decent hole, and then just poke them through and screw it up on the other side. And then, yep, we just use some filler and fill up those holes, re-sand it down, as we don't want it to show when it's coated with lime. Now here we are on the outside, and we said that the glue method wouldn't really work, so actually what we did was use staples. This actually worked remarkably well. Basically you pull it tight. At first we just sort of got all areas of contact. You will have to pull out a lot of staples, just to let you know. But yeah, basically you go along for a long time, it's just staples, 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 unhook a staple, pull it tighter, put a staple down. but it really works. As you can see, it's already taking a shape just from that amount of staples, but it ended up really nice. Just again, lots of this is having patience. As you can see, we've also already attached the pullbacks, so basically we just use screws again, but then I got these decorative bronze covers that I cut off to make it look more authentic. So yeah, as you can see, it's pulling it tight, putting down a staple, pulling it tight, pulling down a staple, removing a staple, pulling it tighter. It's very repetitive, was a bit boring, but it was definitely worth doing it. I couldn't really see any other way to do it. But yeah, so just follow along. Not too hard, but it does the job. Also, what we did after this is we did one whole thing of staples, let it stay for about 24 hours, so that's the amount of staples that we put in. And as you can see on this side here, it turned out really smooth, but wait about 24 hours and then redo it, where the leather then relaxes. Now for the design, I chose a Gorgon design. This works for anything. I just got a projector and projected it on, and then as this has a gold outline, I used a gold permanent marker or Sharpie, and I just went around. So yeah, basically, you don't have to do this design, obviously, it's whatever you want, but I would highly recommend using a projector. So here I am, just tracing it around. And then for the paint, I used, it's actually metal paint. Unfortunately, I didn't film any of the paint job, but here it is after permanent marker. So yeah, basically, acrylic paints do work, but they wash off. So yeah, I used like a metal paint, and it worked really well. It takes about 8 hours to dry, and I did about 2 to 3 coats of it. For the rim, it was a lot of work actually, so this is just after I did my design, which is very satisfying to watch, but it was actually a very long process, so as it is just wood, I couldn't really coat it in leather, so I sprayed it with about 3 coats of Rust-Oleum filler primer, then I sprayed it with a matte white, about 4 layers, and then I used the same black paint that I used for the Gorgon-y Medusa thing, for this, and then I use painter's tape to peel it off, and it is very satisfying. Now you may think if you decide to do triangles that it might be a little bit difficult, but don't worry, I've done the math for you. So there are 37 total triangles around the front, so there's 77.5mm on the top and 70mm on the bottom. Now that should be a guide, and on the back side they're slightly bigger, so it's 77.5mm at the top and 64.5mm on the bottom. I also had to add on some beard lines as well, but without further ado, it was done.